بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد المجيد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is the advanced Google Sheets training. This training is supposed to be one of the most advanced trainings on Google Sheets and perhaps data analytics done by Google Sheets and Excel and these kinds of second-hand tools on the internet. So this course is designed to be taught through case studies. So there is going to be every time a new case study, and through that case study I will be teaching specific formulas as well as specific strategies on how to resolve those problems. So the agenda today is really, who is this course for? What are the learning objectives of this specific case study? And what is this case study? What solution strategy we're going to follow? How does the data model look? And then we're going to do some hands-on work. So let's start who is this course for? This is for analysts, managers, and business owners, and it is not for beginners. So there may be analysts who are beginners, there may be managers who are beginners, and there may be also business owners who are beginners in Google Sheets. So it is not for you guys, it is for those who have some depth in knowledge of data and Google Sheets. So in the case of the analyst, his owner or his manager may ask him for a specific data set. The manager, obviously, he needs to manage his data, and a lot of times he needs to use multiple data sets to build reports. And business owners, obviously, if the business is small, they do not have the budget to actually have a business intelligence or analysts under them. So it is going to be very beneficial for all these three categories. I do want to say that there may be some other categories of people that could benefit out of this course, but really these are the top. So let's get started. What are the learning objectives for this specific case study? Learning objective number one is going to be to learn importrange and how we can bring data together from different spreadsheets. Learning objective number two is how do we actually create new calculated fields on Google Sheets. Learning objective number three is how do we utilize the Google query to stack different data sets and accommodate dynamic filters on Google Sheets. And number four is the if statement. So a lot of times we need to add conditions that are based on if cases to accommodate filtering and analytical needs in various cases. So let us talk a little bit about this case study. And this case study is called Vodi Corp System Limitation. So Vodi Corp has 3 supermarkets at different regions, and you were just promoted to a regional manager for these supermarkets. These supermarkets are located in Cleveland, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and Detroit, Michigan. Vodi Corp uses the same POS system, but the system is not integrated across stores. We want to be able to pull out the summary of all the sales by day across stores and perform small or little limited analysis of time on them. Our system does not have API capabilities, but we can download a common report which shows key sales information like dates and sales. So how do we get the desired outcome if we want that information in a daily basis? So solution strategy. So basically, to really understand the problem a little bit further is that you are a regional manager, you have 3 stores, and you want to really see that data aggregated. You cannot just call your managers every day to each store and tell them, hey, what were your sales? That is really not good management from your perspective. So what you would do in this case is, if you can have another system that can pull that data through API, that would be great. But obviously in our case, we really don't have API, and we don't even have an IT team. So we can't just wait until that day comes, but we really need to resolve this issue. So I'm going to give you guys a clear strategy on how to actually resolve this issue. with Google Sheets. So first of all, getting the data in a daily basis into Google Sheets. So establish a procedure for your managers to dump the data in a daily basis in specific sheets. Because we do not want the managers to view the data of other stores, we will be creating different sheets for each supermarket. The second step is we will automate the data feed. We will utilize importrange to bring the data into a brand new spreadsheet from all existing sheets. Number 3 is we will create the integrated view, which we will utilize Google Query and if statements to create the integrated desired view. So now, how does our data model look like? So first of all, we will have data sources, which will be supermarket A, supermarket B, and supermarket C. And as we established earlier, there is a specific report in our POS system that is common in all 3 of these POS systems. So now we will get those data and we will have our managers daily dump that data at the end of the day. And then we will establish some formulas that are going to allow us to distinguish which supermarket is and have that automatically be run through formulas. And then we will gather all of that data together and we will put it in a final report, which is going to benefit us. So let's start and look at the hands-on and the case that we have built and how do we actually resolve this issue. So first of all, just create a Google Drive so you keep all of your data organized and in one place, and also do the proper sharing, okay? So your first step is going to be to create a supermarket A sheet, okay? So in this supermarket A sheet, what you're going to do is you are going to have your manager in your supermarket A. So you're going to click share. You're going to share it only with the manager on supermarket A. And then you're going to create a supermarket B sheet, which you're going to then share supermarket B sheet on with the second manager, okay? And then on supermarket C sheet, you're going to share the data with your third supermarket manager, okay? So now let us assume that we did all that, okay? So your managers in a daily basis will have access to these 3 sheets, 1, 2, 3. And they will be uploading the new data, okay? They will be importing. So there are a couple of ways on how you can actually teach your managers to do it. Way number 1 is to have them import, and once they import the file, if the file is in a CSV format, they update it. So I'm just going to gather one like this. I'm just going to add a file like that. And then you can say append data to current sheet. What that means is that it's just going to append it every single day. If you don't want, so this is generally the safest way because you're not having your managers just copy and paste. And when they copy and paste, that could just mess up your day-to-day, mess up your sheet literally, because if they paste over an existing date, that means that you're going to lose data. Whereas this way, if the sheet is the same, it could just add the new data in it. So that is going to depend on how you feel about how safe you want this system to be made. But this is sort of with Google Sheets the safest way. So now I'm assuming that our managers have dumped all of this data, okay? So we have A, B, C data, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go here and we are going to go to supermarket A, okay? We are going to assume that there is no data in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the import range function to import the data of supermarket A. I'm going to go import range, and then the way how the import range works is that you literally put the URL of the spreadsheet that you're trying to pull the data. So first you have to put a quotation mark, copy the URL, you paste it, and then it asks you what is the range. Think of it like you're trying to enter a room. First you enter the room, and then you are trying to get something. You're trying to get maybe a TV. You also need to locate where that TV is, whether it's on the ground, on the top, on the bottom of the room, or it's on the left or on the right, etc. The same thing is happening here. So we're going to this specific spreadsheet, but then we need to know what sheet we want. So in this case, we want sheet 1. So we will get sheet 1. And then after that, we also need to know what range. So we want A through B. So the next thing is that it asks us whether we want to give permission. So we need to allow access, because an import range function, if it pulls data from a different segment, if the user does not have an access, he will not be able to actually get that data. Just imagine what that would do. That would literally give us access to every single sheet in the world, even though we don't have access to the underlying data. So Google has established this method to sort of keep the data protected. So now we do this for all 3 of them. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in all 3 of these. So I'm going to delete this existing data, paste it in here, and then delete here, paste it again. So now all I'm going to do for supermarket 2 is I'm just going to copy this and paste it instead of the previous one, okay? Again, if you are an intermediate or advanced person, you shouldn't be confused at this point because I'm moving these too fast. This should be a piece of bread for you, copying and pasting. Paste this in here already. Give permission one more time. Alrighty, so what I have done so far is I have established a procedure for all of the managers. So they are going daily. Each manager is going and dumping the new data. So that is done. Number 2, what I have done is I am pulling all of that data from all of those 3 different sheets that only managers of their respective supermarkets have access to, and I have pulled all of them in one place. I have to ensure that this sheet is not shared with those managers, okay? So now I need to identify now which one, because in here they're only uploading the date and the sales, but I need to identify which one is what supermarket. So what I'm going to use for that is I'm going to use the array formula, okay? So in here, what I'm saying is if B2B, if the column B2B is blank, okay, leave it blank. In the sense, don't add anything in here. However, if there is a value, then say supermarket, I'm going to say supermarket A, okay, because this is the data of supermarket A. So now, as you guys can see, Arrayformula, there are no formulas below in here. This formula is utilized. It's a powerful formula that allows you to literally auto drag the data. There is no need for you to ever drag the data, no matter how far column B extends, okay? So that's really the power of Arrayformula, number 1. And number 2, I have used the if formula, if statement. If statements are also very powerful tools to utilize to establish conditions for your sheets, okay? So I did this for supermarket A. I'm going to do the same for supermarket B. So it's actually already done, the same formula. As you guys can see, it's not dragging. There's nothing below in here. As long, no matter how many rows there are, it's going to keep going down, okay? Supermarket C, I'm going to update this to C. So now what we have is we have 3 different sheets, and we are now able, we have a column on each of them that identifies what each of these data are for, whether they are for supermarket A, whether they are for supermarket B, whether they are for supermarket C. However, our goal was that we want a master report that is going to allow us to see all of these three supermarkets together. Okay, so here's the report. So now what I have done in here is, obviously this is just, you know, some design supermarket. Here's where I've added in here what kind of supermarkets we have, or we could choose all of them. Okay, here I have the sales, which is just a sum of the sales, which we'll pull in here. Okay, so now all of the formula really is right here, and we're just going to analyze that formula and its components. Okay, so what I have said in here is I have told it if all, in the sense that if the user has selected all of the supermarkets, then get this query. This is the formula, okay? Otherwise, select this other query. So now we're going to go in detail as to what is included into these big queries, okay? So query is one of the most powerful formulas in Google Sheets. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go chunk by chunk on how query works, at the same time explain you guys what are all of these sheets. So this one in here is supermarket A. So it is pulling from here. It's getting this data from here, it's saying from A1 to C. Okay. So it's from A1 to C. And then if you guys can see, there is a curly bracket. Okay, this curly bracket is eventually going to allow us to stack the data together. Okay, so, and then I have put a semicolon. So the curly bracket and the semicolon are actually what allow the query to stack sets of data that have the same number of columns. Okay, I want to make that clear. They have the same number of columns. If they have different number of columns, this formula is not going to work. So now, as you guys can see, I have gotten also supermarket B report A2 through C. Look at here, A2. It's not A1 anymore, it's A2. The reason why I've put A2 is because if I put A1 in all of them, Google query will assume that A1 is not a header for this second piece and for this second data set and for this third data set. So I only wanted to get the header from A1 because the header is going to be the same across all of the data sets. Therefore, I don't want to duplicate the header, so it messes up my data. So now, if you guys can see in here, we have 3 supermarkets, right? All 3 of these are under what's called the data set that we're trying to pull. Okay, so this curly bracket in here starting it, and this curly bracket in here ending it, and the data sets that have the same number of columns, and these semicolons are what take all of these group of data and stack them together. Okay, so we just established the stacking of the data for all 3 supermarkets. So let's talk next about what are we going to do, how are we going to utilize these filtering components. Okay, so what we're saying first is, hey, because we have only selected these select specific ranges, we're saying just select all of them. Okay, this asterisk button, this symbol in here means all. We're just telling it to select all. And where means it's more like going deep now, giving another specification to the formula. Okay, so where column one in our case is going to be A, right? So let us see what is A. A is supermarket. Okay, so now you have to think from Google query perspective. Can you say where A? You cannot say where A. You cannot say where A because we have consolidated all three of these. And if we were to say A, Google query will not know which A, this A, or this A. But what it does is once you put all three in a stacked format, then all you're saying is column 1, column 2, column 3, up to column 10 and so forth. Okay? So in this case, we're saying column 1, which is supermarket, okay, is not null. So first, we're establishing that column 1 is not null, okay? Because if we do not do that, it is going to pool our data forever, okay? So now this first query up to here is only for the case when this is all. Okay, so do you guys see if A2 is equal to all? So now in this case, what we're saying is that selected all of your data. The first condition is that column 1 is not null in the sense that supermarket is not null. The second condition is that column 2, which is our date column, it's greater or equal than A5. A5 is in here, okay? So in here, we're trying to establish a date range. So now, the date formula is perhaps one of the most complicated with the query. They could have done a better job, but obviously Google did not do a good job with this. It is quite difficult, and I personally forget it a lot of time, and I have written it somewhere, and I really recommend you guys to write these formulas somewhere in a centralized place so that you can know where to go if you get lost. So the way how this formula works is that you put greater or equal, then you put date, and then you need to sort of convert the date formula to a date format, okay? And then you need to have all of these quotation marks, and you need to have the end sign, and you need to have this single quotation mark. So this is really a preset formula that you could literally copy from here and use it and just memorize it. A lot of these are just going to be memory formulas. And so now we're saying if it is greater than this and it is smaller or equal than this, okay? So now this is B5. So now the same thing, I would recommend you that you memorize this and you write it somewhere so that you do not forget it, okay? So this is called from here to here. This really can save your life because this does the data range query dynamic filtering, okay? So what I have told it in here is I have told it that, hey, select everything as long as column 1 is not null, in the sense that supermarket is not null. And then I have told it select everything where column 2 is greater than this from, which I have put a date in there. Right now there's no date. And if it is smaller than column 2 on B5, which is this other date in here, okay? So now let us assume now that this query is not really all. We have selected a specific supermarket. this one becomes useless and this other one begins the work, okay? So now what in here, the data set is exactly the same, okay? This piece is also exactly the same. I still want to select everything. However, the first condition is different. The previous one said column 1 is not null. The second one is saying column 1 is equal to this one, okay? To A2, which is the supermarket that the user is going to select. And the rest of the data is exactly the same, okay? So now let us just test this function, okay? Let us just choose 22nd till 30th, okay? If you guys see, here is all of the data from the 22nd till the 30th. Now, in here, I also have added another formula, which is probably something that you know on top of your head, which is the sum of your sales. I'm just summing everything what's in here. So this is also a validation. Google makes it quite simple. So now I can do this one. It's going to. What if I only want to see supermarket A? Okay, I can see supermarket A sales. So this is really it for today. This is what it would be setting up a workflow, really, because you have to teach your team on how to upload that data and update that data, and you have to ensure that they are updating it correctly. And the second piece is this really gives you the ability to get access to that data quite easily as a regional manager. All right, guys, thank you very much for following me today and watching this video. Please